Hello, everybody. My name is Tim Jenkins, and tonight I would like to discuss the issue of fraud in the marketplace, like what it is and what we can do as consumers. So, let's get started. What is fraud, first of all? Fraud is simply one way in which people will try to exploit consumers in order to gain profits. And this can look like many different things that will twist the truth in one way. As our textbook describes, it can be exaggerating claims, deliberately falsifying information in advertisements, and things like that. So, why should we care about fraud? First of all, fraud affects many of us, and as the text says, it impacts 1 in 5 Americans, which is like 20% of us. And then it also goes on to say how 55% of companies have used false advertising, and this negatively impacts the economy, both for consumers and for the businesses themselves, which we'll look at here in a second. So, the impact of fraud on businesses. First of all, businesses on average lose 5% of their revenue due to fraud every year, and then they have to increase their prices in order to compensate for this loss, and that hurts us as consumers. The reputation of the business is tarnished, and they will lose customers, because I don't know about you, but I typically don't want to go back to a place that I know has had a reputation of fraud, and depending on the severity of and the extent of it, the business can face like class action lawsuits if there was negligence on their part, like if they somehow didn't take the proper steps in securing financial information from the transactions or anything like that. That can help instigate and start a lawsuit and cause the business a whole lot of money. Some of the impacts on consumers is, like I alluded to, the mistrust in the company and not wanting to go back to a disreputable site that will cause you the potential for jeopardizing your financial accounts and things like that. There is a great headache of putting a stop to the fraud. You have to call your banks, and then it's a hassle for consumers to deal with, and they wouldn't have to deal with that if it wasn't for fraud. And it can put you in a financial jam, because a lot of like credit card companies and banks, they will require you to have the transaction go through and charged to your account before you can dispute it and try getting your money back in restitution. So if you had low account balance, for instance, this can cause overdraws, which the bank wouldn't cover, and put you in, especially if you were counting on that money being there, like for rent, it can cause a lot of hardship for people. So, what are some common scams that a lot of us will face? Well, there's pyramid schemes, and these are a scam because, and you can kind of see in the picture here, that there's like different levels, and it boils down to like, oh, you tell 5 of your friends to send me money, and they will expand it, so you basically on the bottom rung with the workers doing all the work, selling it to their friends. It sometimes is more than the world population, and as you go up, you become like supervisor and middle management, the vice president and the president. So only the people at the top will actually get the money because it's all being funneled up to the top. And you rarely will make money off of it. And then another common scam is like telemarketing, and these will try to use like scare tactics, such as claiming your computer has been infected and is causing harm to others and spreading a virus, and they need to take control of your computer and to have you type in some certain commands in order to do that. And what ends up happening is they infect your computer and then put on like ransomware and ransom your computer to get you access to your files again, even if you didn't have a virus. So don't believe if they are calling, and maybe call back to your service provider and ask. Run a virus scan, but don't fall into the trap of letting them take advantage of you. And credit cards. That is another big scam. Like, you will get offers for credit cards, and then you have to pay an application fee and service fee, all that. So they take advantage of that. Or they will claim, oh, we can fix your credit score so you can even buy a house, a mortgage, and pay off your loans and everything. And this is a scam because nobody can legally access your credit file in order to make those changes to lower your credit, like raise your credit score and make you more suitable for potential loaners. So, since we are all college students, I figured I would discuss some college scams that affect a lot of us. The first is financial aid. These offers are basically where you will get a guarantee of getting financial aid, or they will call you and say, oh, you have gotten this scholarship, and then they're going to try charging you a service fee for the services provided. This isn't normal. Like, scholarships and grants, they usually are free, and you are the one initiating it, and not the other way around. Another common scam is with roommates. The way this scam will work is you have people out of town, and they send you a check for an amount saying that that is going to be used to secure the deposit and name on the lease, that sort of thing. And then they send you more than what is required, and then ask for you to send the money in excess back, but it turns out the check was fake, so the student ends up having to pay for the fees. Like, they pay out of pocket for the difference, and then any fees associated with like a bad check and things like that. Another common scam is student loans and parking tickets. The way these scams work are basically where they will call you and try using scare tactics by taking a random guess that most college students have one or the other, and that they are going to go arrest you or call the police if you don't pay them money to deal with it. And if you get a call like this, what you should be doing is contacting your creditor or the place where you got it and verify it, because they can't arrest you. They can ruin your credit score legally and things like that, but over student loans and parking tickets, they can't physically go arrest you. And that usually is in the terms of like the loan, how it will follow you for generations and can be passed on to your kids. And red flags that you might be getting scammed. And these are some basic red flags. There's many others to be aware of, but the first off is if the offer is too good to be true, and that means it usually is. Realize that nothing is for free, as the book says, and it's actually costing somebody something. So if they're giving you an offer that for free stuff or anything, it's usually a scam. If somebody is trying to rush you in a decision or use scare tactics, so you buy on impulse, that is usually a scam, because most people will have something like with the door-to-door sales, that something called a cool-off period that the book talks about. And that is where you have like 3 days to change your mind, and they have to accept it. And most people don't know about those cool-off periods or anything. And if the business contacts you rather than the other way around, and then they offer to send a courier to your house to collect money for any products or anything, that is not usual fair business practices. That is usually a red flag of being scammed, because if you are initiating the thing, then that means that it's proper business etiquette and procedure. So what you have in this case is either a sketchy, legitimate business that is not following good practice, or it's a scam. So, what are some protective measures that we as consumers can do to protect ourselves? The book gives many things, but one of the biggest things is be cautious in your dealings. Like, don't buy on the impulse, and check the reputation of the places and things like that, and ask a lot of questions. For instance, if you get one of those calls to your house and everything from like a credit card company, ask them for your address, because they should have that on file right in front of them, and if there's any hesitation, that is not a good sign. And kind of like what I've already said, take your time. Do not feel rushed into anything. If it's a big enough purchase, like a car or anything, you can go home and sleep on it. Talk to a friend. Do anything to take some time and make sure, and assess, do I really need this? Why am I wanting to buy this? And everything. So, what happens if you've already been the victim of fraud and it's post-victimization? What are some of the things you can do? Well, the first thing you should do is actually report the fraud or scam, to the police, and make a report. Because the book says that, only 10% of people actually will make a report, and this allows the scam to keep on going for a long time, because the police don't have enough information, or don't know the extent of the scam, and that gives the perpetrator of the crime plenty of time to escape state lines or declare bankruptcy, so that they can still evade being caught. The next thing you do is notify your bank or the credit company and dispute the charge. A lot of places like Discover, they actually have a policy where you never have to pay for the fraud charges, and if you let them know and dispute the claim, you can be like, oh, this wasn't me that made this purchase, or just tell them, oh, my account has been compromised. They will usually send you a new card to help secure your account, and any charges that you dispute, they will give you the money back. And another thing people can do is look up the government agencies to help if laws were broken, as is often the case with fraud. You have things like the state attorney's office or the Better Business Bureau or the Consumer Protection, like Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, things like that. So look up those agencies, educate yourself on things that you can do, and or lawyer up if absolutely necessary. So, what is next? Knowing your legal rights as a consumer is important. You have the cool off periods, like I've already described, and that's with the door to door sales and the ability to change your mind up to like 3 days, and they have to cancel the contract or anything that they might have sold you if you changed your mind. And a lot of things have implied warranties, and the book discusses this as the assumption that the product is good enough quality and everything to sell, and at in buying it's like a statement of trust, and that even if there isn't a warranty done, there's an implied warranty, and some lawyers and everything definitely are familiar with that and can help make a case. And non-payment of the fraudulent charges. You have the right with like credit card companies and everything not to pay it, but you do need to take the steps and let them know why you aren't paying your bill, and it's usually will just be in the amount that was charged if they don't take it off and you disputed it. And lastly, in the event that you do have to lawyer up and go to court, just like you have the right to a quick and fair trial of a jury of your peers and everything legally with civil cases, you have, in the event of fraud, the right to get quick restitution for your claim. So the next thing that this chapter in the book talks about is rip-offs. So what are they? They are unfair acts of exploitation on customers in the marketplace transactions. And that comes from page 76. Rip-offs, contrary to common belief, they are legal until a judge deems that it is actually fraud. So they all amount to not getting your money's worth. And this can look like a lot of things. So what are some common rip-offs? Kind of like what I was saying. So like loans, for instance. And this is like where you can get a tax refund a little faster. You can pay like $300 to take out a $900 tax refund anticipation loan from tax services that file returns electronically. And that is from page 76 in our book. So loans can be a rip-off, and they usually are as well in general because of the interest you end up paying. And you would have been much better off if you could afford to pay in cash or pay it off quickly so you don't have to pay the interest. Health products. Guys, this is a huge one, especially for women who are victimized this way, because they may hear about a product that like takes away wrinkles or tones your body, makes you look more attractive, that sort of thing, and when they actually get the product, it turns out it doesn't work. And so, or you get a bunch of like food supplements and vitamins, and these things aren't FDA approved, and they aren't proven to work, and so it's just like a placebo of anything and doesn't actually work. And lastly, another common thing is paying for the extended warranties. When you pay for an extended warranty, this is basically extending the warranty that your product comes with, and this is a ripoff, and the book says it is because it pays off less than 2% of the time. So you are taking a gamble that it would not fail, but with the extended warranties, you either lose the paperwork or it just doesn't break in that time frame, so it's a waste. So now that I've informed you a little bit, what are some of the resources that consumers can look to protect themselves or take the proper claims? There are things like the Better Business Bureaus or the Chamber of Commerce if you look more locally, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and this is a great resource, guys. It tells you like what to do and lists some of the common scams more in depth. It has things related to like student loans, what providers need to know, and things like that. It's a great resource, guys. And then the State Attorney General Office. This is a resource because, as I have mentioned, the fraud is usually breaking some sort of law, and if it utilizes federal things like the post office in order to execute these scams, that is where it becomes a legal affair mainly, and the Attorney General's office can take over. And the Office of Consumer Affairs is another resource that people can use. And these are important because they often are not known about or utilized to the extent that they should be. So, as I prepare to close, let's do a recap of some of my main points. Fraud and ripoffs are a problem clear across the world in today's society, and it affects many of us. And yet there are things that we as consumers can do to protect ourselves in various ways, such as being cautious in our dealings and things like that, and that there are resources available to you. And this concludes my presentation, and I might have missed the slide talking about like fraud and it being broad. Like the US and Mexico are ranked like some of the highest countries for the prevalence rates of fraud. So that tells us that as America, we have a problem that we need to address. And with this, I close my presentation, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you very much.